Hey everybody, welcome to the Module 2 overview video. This video will just go over the assignment details and the different due dates for the reading responses, the discussion board, the final paper, stuff like that. So of course just go to our Blackboard page, click on Learning Modules, and then you want Module 2. And then if you click on the Module 2 overview, it'll bring up a doc that has all the due dates, the assignment details, everything you need. Uh, in general, though, this assignment, Module 2, runs very similarly to Module 1. We have, very similar discussion board posts, very similar reading responses, very similar peer review work. The steps you'll basically take are going to be the exact same. The only really difference is the assignment that you're doing in them around is a bit different than the literacy narrative. The first thing to probably get out of the way is this paper is a more classically academic college paper. It's not a narrative, it isn't a story, so you won't be writing it in the same way as you would your literacy narrative. Of course, it is going to be still about you in some way, shape, or form, so you can still use I and still talk about, you as the subject of this paper, or rather your work as the subject of this paper. And that'll be totally cool. It's written much more like an academic paper than it is like a narrative or a story. So just keep that in mind. Before I went over the due dates, though, I just really wanted to quickly go over what the assignment requirements are, because this assignment might be a little bit different than assignments that you've done in the past. So over here on the right, I'm just going to write up a quick step-by-step guide to doing your literacy narrative. It's also on here in some way, shape, or form, but I feel like this assignment explanation can be a little bit confusing, so I just wanted to go into a little bit more detail here. First things first, really what you're doing in this essay is you're analyzing or sort of taking apart your own writing. So the first step is, step one. Pick a paper you have written for a previous class. Try to make it a college course. I have had people write using papers that they've written in high school, and it works. It still does work. I mean, you can still write a pretty solid paper that way, but it's going to be a little bit harder for you, I think, because a lot of the stuff that this assignment's based around is sort of thinking about college level writing, and that'll be a little bit harder if you pick a paper that you do, or that you did rather, in a high school course. So step one, pick a paper you've written for a previous class. Try to make it a college course. Step two is to think about the genre of that paper. So what I mean by that, is it for a science class? Is it a business prospectus? A literary analysis? A sociology literature review? Really, but you want to think, okay, so more than just writing a paper for a college course, what kind of paper specifically is this? So is it a physics paper? Is it a biology paper? Is it like a business proposal, a literary analysis, etc.? Because one thing you have to keep in mind is every discipline or major writes in a different way. They use different kinds of structure. They are for different purposes and audiences, etc. So, they use very different word choice. They use different kinds of evidence. So, for example, when you're writing a science paper, the evidence that you use is going to be very different than the evidence that you use in a literary analysis. In a literary analysis, you might talk about themes, metaphors, symbol, the historical context that particular novel might be written in, how it's responding to that historical context, stuff like that. Whereas in a science paper, it's much more fact data driven. You're talking about, the results you got in an experiment, why you got those results, what those results indicate. For a business perspective, you're much more interested in things like how much profit, how much revenue, what's your overhead. That's the kind of evidence that you're going to be giving. So really what you want to do is you want to think about what are the specific requirements of the genre that I'm writing in for this paper. And that'll get you to the next step, which is using the Bartholomew. So using the Bartholomew, and if you're curious, that Bartholomew article is right here. You can also use the Irene Clark article as well. It doesn't matter. You can use either or both. So using the Bartholomew article, discuss how you went about inventing or imitating the genre you were required to write in. So really, when you're expected to write a science paper for a science class, and this is what the Bartholomew article talks about, you're sort of expected to write as if you were a scientist. When you're writing a business prospectus or a, business proposal, you're sort of expected to write as if you're someone already in business. Likewise, for a literary analysis, you're expected to write as if you already know something about literature and you can sort of converse with other people who know things about literature. The problem is, as a student, you're still in some ways learning how to write like a scientist or a business person or a literary scholar or whatever. So you're sort of stuck in this weird spot where you're expected to write using all these conventions or using all these rules of the genre, and you're also in some ways learning how to do that. So what Bartholomew talks about is because students are sort of in this weird spot, what ends up happening is they do all these things or make all these moves where they're sort of, as he puts it, inventing the genre that they're trying to write in. So, they may, for example, may not exactly know how to write a science paper, so they kind of make it up as they go along. So what you're doing is you're looking at your own writing and you're talking to me about, okay, well, look at this specific passage that I wrote in this science paper, and here's where I'm sort of trying my best to fit into the genre. Here's me using the language of a scientist. Here's me using the evidence that I think other scientists would use. But basically what you're doing is show me how you write in the genre you were expected to write in. How are you writing like a scientist? Slash business person, whatever genre you're expected to write in. So really, again, at its most basic form, what you're doing for this assignment is you're analyzing your own writing. You're talking to me about why you made the decisions that you made and why you think the way you wrote sort of fits into this larger genre that you were expected to write in. I have other videos that will hopefully explain this in a little bit better detail. Again, I have them all right here. As usual, the dates in these other videos may not be correct, so don't take them as correct. I tried to write a little disclaimer. Although the videos in this the dates in this video are correct, and I will go over those right now. So of course, probably the big one is the genre analysis. The final is due Friday, June 24th. You have a little bit more time to work on this one. I wanted to give you, it's a little bit harder than the literacy narrative, so I wanted to give you some more time to kind of stretch out, give you more time to ask questions or what have you. So do Friday, June 24th, 3 to 5 pages, about 1,000 words. And again, just kind of analyzing a paper that you wrote for a previous class based on the genre requirements of that paper. You know, if it's a science paper, business paper, how are you expected to write in a sort of a science way or a business way? And where do you see yourself struggling with that? Where do you see yourself sort of using the right word choice, etc.? So that's the big dates. Some other small dates, of course, are probably the first assignment is planning your genre analysis, where you answer these questions. It really works the same as the literacy narrative plan, where you sort of give me a quick little outline of your paper. Really just answer these questions here, and then also, of course, comments on 3 of your classmates' posts. So the exact same as the discussion board for the literacy narrative plan. As usual, I'll create a literacy narrative, or rather, a genre analysis plan board. You'll post it there and you'll respond there as well. Peer review works the exact same as well. I'll open up the discussion board and have a thread for each group, depending on what group you're in. And groups will be different. Keep that in mind. I haven't posted groups yet, but groups will be different. You won't be in the same groups you were for the first module. But post your draft. I have, again, the peer response sheet, and you'll do it the exact same way that you did the literacy narrative. Post your draft and then post your comments and your filled out peer response sheet. You have to post your draft by Friday, June 17th. And then you have to review and post your responses to your group mates' drafts by Monday, June 20th. And then finally, the reading summary, just one reading summary this time. You're synthesizing really both reading summaries into one, where you're talking, or rather not summary, but responses, I guess. You're responding to both Bartholomew and the Clark in the same document, so don't give me two. I mean, I guess if you want, you can give me two, and I can grade it in the same way. But as you can see, you're supposed to draw on both readings here, so it's probably actually much better just to give you the one. And that's due Wednesday, June 22nd. The discussion board stuff obviously needs to be posted to the discussion board, whereas the reading response, slash reading summary, and then the final genre analysis essay can just be emailed to me. So take a look at the other videos. Take a look at all the other documents that I provided. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to email me or post on the discussion board. I should have all that stuff up here momentarily. But hopefully I will hear from you soon. Happy writing.